Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, or good evening, or good morning, wherever it is that you may be, whatever time zone you may be watching from. Good, whatever time of day it is to you. Today is kind of an unusual day in terms of the church calendar, because typically on the calendar that we use, we'd be celebrating the Feast of the Holy Family today. But with the rubrics and the general layout that we're using, today we're actually in tune with the larger churches, celebrating the baptism of Jesus Christ. And when we talk about baptism, a lot of people think about when we were babies, we get water poured on our heads. And some weird dude is saying words that we don't understand. Because, we're babies and we don't understand language quite yet. But who talks about baptism in its actual context? The early fathers spoke of baptism as an initiation. St. Justin Martyr uses this word in his Apology when he's trying to explain Christianity to the emperor. He says, after one has been initiated with sacred washing, they then partake of the mysteries. And I think today, this is a good time to talk about initiation. What initiation is, what initiation is not. And so what is initiation? I'm not really sure whether I should start by talking about what initiation is in the strict sense or in the broad sense, or if I should start by telling you exactly what initiations I do have and what initiations I don't have, in order to make this easier to understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying, especially if I mess up. So I'm going to start by telling you what initiations I do and what I don't have. And I just realized I forgot something, so please give me one moment. I'm going to be right back. I need to get something to show you for this. Okay. Apologies for the delay. I do not have any initiation whatsoever from an occult order, from a lodge, from a fraternity, or any such society. I want to lay that out. There is one order that I've been dialoguing with back and forth for 20 years and have had a standing invitation. I am inclined towards it, but circumstances have kept us from hooking up. I'm hoping to fix that this year as the weather warms up. Now, the initiations I do have, these initiations, they come from the church. My first initiation was my baptism. My second initiation was my confirmation. Then I have the initiations of my ordination. When I was in the priesthood in the traditional Roman Catholic movement, I was serving under Bishop Anthony Farr of the Latin Rite Catholic community. However, I live in Ohio and he lives all the way in Yakima, on the complete opposite side of the country. So what happened was I was ordained to the priesthood by Paul Victor Verheeren in Poughkeepsie, New York. He passed away some 8 years ago, but interesting character, not somebody I would willingly serve under. Okay, my final initiation was my consecration to the episcopate. Okay, the order of bishop. Now you see, there are 7 orders from the porter or doorkeeper up to the priesthood. Okay, those are your 7 grades of holy orders. Then the bishopric is the final initiation. That's the final unleashing of power within the current that is Christianity. Everything above that, archbishop, metropolitan, cardinal, all that, even pope, these ranks. Okay, these ranks, these are more administrative. They don't confer any spiritual power. They're not initiations. They're just administrative and political ranks for ruling and governing. Just like how the governor of your state is no different of a person than you are. They just have a rank that helps them govern the state and pass laws and stuff. So we need to separate the spiritual from the temporal in this regard. Now, my initiation to the episcopate. Now, I tell people my consecrator was Patrick Taylor on March 21st, 2007. I was consecrated by Bishop Taylor. I was consecrated subconditionally. Okay, my original consecration was on September 18th of 2005 by John Plummer with David Oliver Kling as co-consecrator, and John Michael Greer participated in the rite. So when I say I've done ritual with John Michael Greer, that's the event that I'm talking about. I also had like an hour conversation with him afterwards. He's a very fascinating man. I could see why he has such a following. Now for that, this is my documentation of everything I just talked about. These are my lines of apostolic succession. The beginning, I have correspondence with Rome, my consecration certificate, my consecration certificates, documentation from Rome attesting to everything that I just said. The front part, my consecration from Plummer, documentation of my lines of succession. Next part, I'm already in it. Next part, lines from Taylor, succession there. And the final part of Acts, those people that I have ordained or consecrated. So everything, I keep everything documented in this book. And one thing, the reason I pull out this book is because within every line of initiation, it doesn't matter whether it is within the church or within a magical lodge or whatever. In any line of initiation, there is you, there is a person who initiated you, there's a person who initiated them, and so on, going back to the order's founder. Okay, this is called initiatory succession. In Christianity, it's called apostolic succession because it traces back to one of the apostles and ultimately back to Jesus. A person who claims initiation but does not have a line of succession, that person cannot really be considered to be duly initiated by any outward standard. There are exceptions to that rule. But I'm not going to talk about them here. They're very individuated on a case-by-case basis. But the reason for this is initiation is a community. Okay, you have this current which is being represented and in some cases safeguarded by a community. Initiation is when the community welcomes you to become part of their number, part of their fellowship, and to partake of the energy that comes from their current. So this is why I'm skeptical of self-initiation, because self-initiation, it seeks to bypass the work of contacting the community, bypass the work of being tested by and vetted by the community, where they can tell you if maybe you're not ready for it, but here's how you can become ready. So they can actually help you. But books on self-initiation, they tend to be more geared towards your higher self is guiding the initiation. Well, if your higher self is guiding it, maybe your lower self isn't quite ready for the information yet. And you have to make your entire being ready. So that's why I'm skeptical of self-initiation. Which brings us to the next thing. What initiation is in a narrow sense and what initiation is in the broad sense. Initiation in the narrow sense is you have been accepted by a group or a fraternity or a lodge or a church to become one of their number. That's what it is. A community welcomes you into their community. Effectively, a community adopts you as one of their family. That's probably the most baseline analogy I can give. But what is initiation in the broad sense? Because not all initiations involve a group. Not all initiations involve an organization. An initiation can be like what in the regular world is called an epiphany. It can be something happens to you. Usually something really bad happens to you, and you learn something from it, and you become better at something. You learn from the experience, and you grow from the experience. Whether you grow in your secular knowledge, whether you grow in your ability to apply the knowledge, whether you grow in your spiritual ability. I've often referenced a car accident that happened on May 10th of 2009. I've referenced it for the magical content that I gained from it, which was quite a bit. To me, this was a sort of initiation of this sense. Because what happened, it wasn't just the aftermath, it wasn't just the nice resolution to it, but more importantly, what was the baseline learning that I got from it? During the prayers, during the work I did after this event, I felt like, and you can call me crazy if you want, I don't care if you believe me, it makes no difference to me on my application and my growth and my progress. Just like what I think should make no difference to you. But I felt like it got to where I would pray that rosary, and it felt like I was seeing the gear wheels of the universe. I was reaching out, I was touching the gears of the universe. You know that vision of the machinery of the universe? That's what I felt like I was experiencing. I would touch a gear wheel, I would adjust it. I touch it, I would adjust it. And make the machinery, tweak the machinery to put out a desired product. That's what it felt like. And then it came to me. I'm not doing this because I need it. I'm doing it because I effing want it. I'm saying it with force because I want you to feel the force that I felt when this happened. And it occurred to me. There is no such thing as necessity. That which we call necessity is only the contingency of desire. We don't need something unless it is part of something we want. And there was a comment from Frater Abdiel, who is a wonderful contributor. Actually, he's somebody I've known for 20 years. I'd like to read this. Frater Abdiel says, a key element of magical / Masonic / etc. initiations is that the person being initiated does not know in advance everything that will occur. It is truly a mystery to them that is gradually revealed in the rite. Self-initiation simply cannot have this dynamic at all. I'm going to leave that hanging there because I do agree. It's just like you can't pour water on yourself, say, Ego me baptizo in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, and say you're automatically a Catholic. You cannot baptize yourself. Now, I'm inclined to think that some traditions are more flexible when it comes to initiation than other traditions. I'm going to talk about that later on. I want to get back to what we're talking about here. So, in the narrow sense, it's when a community accepts you. In the broad sense, it can be, initiation can be an event that initiates you, that brings you into awareness and brings you into engagement, interaction with a certain set of mysteries. Whether it's connected with the magical order or not, it can be a spiritual initiation. There's also another type of initiation, which fits, it's not exactly the narrow sense, it's not exactly the broad sense, it's somewhere in between. And it's an initiation where the spirits themselves teach you, the spirits themselves initiate you into a set of mysteries and guide you along a path. One thing we see, for example, is in some of the grimoires, you'll find Spirit A or Spirit B is evoked to initiate you into the mysteries of alchemy or into the properties of plants and stones or into language or into various arts. We see this in the grimoire literature. And by teaching you, you're being initiated into these mysteries. The Spirit is a teacher. Another example of this in recent times is this book I've been reading, Spiritual Alchemy by Jenny Tyson, where she talks about, and it's a fascinating read, she talks about how she was led through a series of initiations during the course of a year working with the spirit of Edward Kelly and with various other entities. And it's pretty fascinating. She has things in here that cannot be faked. So it's definitely fascinating, and I even got a few ideas from reading the book. I'm working on some tweaks to the Guardian Angel Prayer right now. It's too soon. It's only been a few days. It's too soon to tell what the results are yet. But I know that every time I say this prayer, I feel like my skull's being cracked open and some type of surgery is being done on my brain. Considering what I'm attempting, that tells me I'm on the right track. So I'm going to leave that there for now. I will update you on the tweaks with the Guardian Angel Prayer as results tend to manifest themselves. So this third type of initiation where the spirits teach, there is something valid to that as well. I've mentioned, for example, the dream I had that resulted in the Invocatio Nominis Domini. I've mentioned the dreams I've had of the two brunettes and the redhead. I've mentioned the various dreams, and these dreams led me into understanding deeper things. And so there are multiple dynamics in which initiation can happen. So we have initiation in the broad sense, in the narrow sense, and what I'm going to call the in-between sense, maybe the middle sense. Maybe that would work. Because that can work in tandem with initiation into an order or lodge. It can work without initiation into an order or lodge. It can work on one's own efforts, provided the first contact is successful and communication with the spirit can be established. These are skills that need to be developed separately and independently. Let's talk about what initiation is not. Because this is one of the things that really bothers me about the occulture. You see complaints about this all the time. In Masonic circles and in Golden Dawn circles, and that's where I've seen them the most. It happens elsewhere, but I've seen them the most there, so I'm going to focus there first. It's very common to hear complaints within Masonic circles that the brothers aren't interested in the mysteries anymore. The brothers are interested more in being a social club or an armchair philosophy, but they're not working the mysteries. You'll hear this. Or you'll hear that within the Golden Dawn, this group is a mother of sanctimonious magicians. Too many people in the Golden Dawn system are interested in gathering the titles, but they're not interested in doing the work. Well, that bothers me. It doesn't bother me much because I don't have initiations in these traditions. But here's the thing. Initiation is not something that makes you super powerful. It's not something that makes you insta-mage. It's not something that makes you super totally awesome. In fact, this goes back to a blog post I wrote, what was it, a year and a half, 2 years ago? That priests are not inherently better at magic than lay people. I got a lot of pushback from this. Magic is effectively a sacramental. It works on the ex opere operantis principle, from the work of the worker. What you get out of it is proportional to what you put into it. And so in this case, there are plenty of priests who, okay, they got the ordination, okay, fine. The mark is on their soul. When they say, "Oc anum corpus meum," they manifest Jesus on the altar. Okay, fine. That's ex opere operato, from the work worked. Okay, fine. But they generally manifest that because Jesus loves the people that they're serving in spite of them. He's not doing it because this priest is such a holy and wonderful person. The guy could be a drunk, he could be a lush, he could be into all sorts of things I don't want to discuss here, but you can use your imagination because, well, you watch the news. But this priest is not going to be anywhere near as good at doing magic as, say, a lay person who let's say they pray the rosary every day. They're in communication with their guardian angel. They actually do the work. And this lay person's only initiation may be their baptism and their confirmation, but they're actually doing the work. That person will be more efficacious at manifesting things than this priest who doesn't do the work would be. So, in this case, priest and lay person are equal. And in this case, adeptus major and neophyte would be equal. If you have a neophyte who does their LRP every day, if you have an adeptus minor who does their middle pillar every day, but an adeptus major who just sits there says, "I got the title, so screw you, that's why. I'm powerful mage because I got the title." And that to me is the difference between a culture and occultism. A culture I define as the social aspects surrounding the occult. It's walking into the club wearing the biggest pentagram. It's showing off your titles to everybody. It's going through the rituals and getting the initiations and having the titles. It's hanging out on image boards. It's talking on Facebook with your friends. Occultism, on the other hand, is just 4 words. Doing the damn work. You can be an occultist without the occulture. You can be in the occulture without being an occultist. But the truth is, if I had to choose one to the exclusion of the other, I would choose doing the damn work. Because doing the damn work, that's the part that matters. Okay, pause real quick. Phil asks, if God asks you to do anything, should you do it? I'm going to say first you need to make sure that God is the one asking you to do it. Because there are trickster spirits and there are also shadows, thought forms that you create that could be tricking you and pretending to be God. Okay, so what initiation does not do is give you automatic ultimate power. What initiation does do is it brings you in contact with the current that is flowing through a magical order. Be it the church, be it the Golden Dawn, be it the Autumn Solis, be it and be it the Order of the Astral Star, which is the group with whom I have a dialogue, okay, be it any other magical order. It brings you in contact with the current so that you can engage that current and you have access with the tools and the technology that are available within that current. That's what initiation does. What's up to you is whether you do the work within that current, you do the work to develop within that current. That's the part that's up to you. So there's the ex opere operato part, which puts you in contact with the current. The ex opere operantis is the work you have to do. This is where I think the Aurum Solis has a more elegant system of handling this. They have the conception of transferable initiations. There are transferable initiations, but then, and these are the ones that you accept in ritual. So it's being transferred. But then they have the conception of non-transferable initiations. And this is what you attain by doing the actual work. There is no way somebody can give this to you. You have to develop it within yourself. And Jesus says in the Gospel of Thomas, if you develop what is within you, it will save you. If you don't develop what is within you, it will destroy you. This is also the same lesson as a parable of the talents given in the Gospel of Luke. The master gave 3 servants 1 talent, which at the time was about 15 years worth of income. The first one invested the talent and grew it. The second one opened up a shop. The third one was so scared of losing what he had that he went and buried it. And eventually the master came back and said, okay, what have you done with my money? The first one showed him, said, master says, you will be rewarded. The second one showed him, you will be rewarded. The third one, I was scared and I buried it because I was afraid of you. The master says, well, you're afraid of me and all you did was bury it? Get out of here. And I'm taking that back too. What happened was the 2, they cultivated what was given to them. If we use the talent as example for grace, which is energy, which is what you receive from being initiated into a given current. If the talent is representative of the interaction with the current, you develop it, and it builds you up. It builds you up. It increases you. It improves you. If you don't develop what's given you within that current, again, parable of the talents, it destroys you. Or if it doesn't destroy you, at the very least, it makes you very mediocre. And so, yeah, when I look at people who prattle on about their titles or have their Facebook, greatly honored frater so-and-so, which is usually some Hebrew or Latin name they can't even pronounce, I cringe. It kind of turns me off to the person because they're whipping around their titles like a boy whipping around their penis. You know that saying, religion is like that, it's not polite to whip it around in public? Well, that's what they're doing when they whip their titles around. Okay, fine. You want to have a size contest? I'll whip mine out. My title is Most Reverend Lord. Excellencia Nostra Reverendissimus Dominus Iaston Spadafora Episcopus Titularis Admissionem Sacrosanctae Romani Ecclesiae. That is my full title. So you want to whip it out? You have a size contest? Fine. I'll whip mine out. I will beat you over the head with it and I will bash you through the ground to the other side of the planet. But I don't do that. I don't do that because I don't care for titles. People who are long on titles, in my opinion, tend to be very short on the word. They care more about the status. They care more about showing off and flexing on others than they care about developing what is within them. That's what I've seen. I've seen this with clergy. I've seen this with people in magical orders. I've seen this with people who claim to be Rosicrucians. I've seen this with people who claim to be pretty much anything. I've seen it with New Agers. I've seen it with Neo-Pagans. Right, I remember one HPS, that's High Priestess in Wiccan speak. This was an Orthodox Gardnerian coven based in Western New York. And her entire thing was, she was what, in her 50s at the time. Her coveners were like 22, 23 years old. And her thing was lording her knowledge over people and telling them what to do. Well, there were a few other things, but quite frankly, I doubt that she was really all there on the inside. Whatever work she did, it didn't show. Whatever work she did, if she did it, it would have deteriorated. So, That's the thing. It doesn't matter what religion. It doesn't matter what path. It doesn't matter what tradition. Human beings are human beings. And pride really does go before the fall. So, the occulture is not something with which I concern myself. It's not something with which I would recommend you to concern yourself. Have your friends, stay tight with your friends. But focus more on doing the work than looking good. Focus on that. Focus on the development. Because all initiation is a doorway and an opportunity. So focusing on that, it will help you to focus on the initiations that you yourself have. You focus on the initiations that you have. You focus on the technology available to you within those initiations. Now, it is said, Mike Sentencia talks about this on his old Direct Magic blog, that it's possible to hack technology that's initiation only. It's possible to hack it by basically making, how did he say it, making your own signature look like the signature of the initiatory current. I don't know whether that works because I have not tried it. I have no interest in trying it. But I did think that was an interesting tidbit. And not all the technology requires initiation. There are, really, I've met plenty of non-Christians who were never even baptized, not even as babies, who pray the rosary, and it works for them. I know a person who's only, who was raised Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's Witnesses do not have valid baptisms, largely because they don't use the essential form, and their intent is more Arian than Catholic. Protestants do, because Protestants do have valid baptism. That's a whole video in and of itself, how that's a thing. So what happened? He did not have valid baptism, no valid initiation into the church, but he prayed the rosary and got results with it. Okay. Or how many people have no initiation in a Golden Dawn Lodge, not even their 0 equals 0, but they use the lesser ritual, the pentagram, every day. And it works for them. It creates the barrier. It gets rid of the distractions. It helps them get used to ritual. It has a desired effect. So not all technology is locked up behind walls. I know in my own case, I use the LRP every day, twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. And what happens is I did end up tweaking it. I ended up tweaking it so the Kabbalistic components are no longer in there. The order of the archangels would match the element to direction distinctions you'd find in medieval Catholicism. And the 6-rayed star is no longer the 6-rayed star. I'm taking on the God form of Jesus Christ, and within me is the light of Christ. So I have altered significantly. In fact, the divine names, I use the Trisagion. I wrote a blog post about this too. And it works for me. Now I'm going to pause real quick because Patrick says, a lot of magical orders love to say an initiated adept is superior to an uninitiated occultist who has the same of self-initiation. What is your opinion? Well, I pretty much covered that earlier in that I'm skeptical of self-initiation because initiation in the strict sense is a community accepting you in. However, I'm also going to say that when they say an initiated adept, usually of their own order, is superior to an uninitiated occultist, I'm going to call them out as BS because a lot of these so-called initiated adepts, they're too busy waving around their titles and not doing the work. In general, a person who does the work, regardless of initiatory status, will almost always produce superior results to a person who does not do the work, regardless of initiatory status. I hope that helps to clear things up. So, where was I in this? There is technology available outside of initiated walls. There is technology that's only available inside of initiated walls. And I'm saying technology because I have a consultation every Thursday where technology is the predominant word that's used. So it kind of just grew on me, and quite frankly, I kind of like it. It's spiritual technology. So, in closing this up, what would you do? I'm not going to say run to the nearest order and seek initiation. Instead, I'm going to echo an email that I received a few days ago and the advice that I gave in response to that. A gentleman told me he is a Catholic and he is interested in practicing magic. Is there any initiation ceremony he needs to undergo or self-initiation? My response was, your initiation is your baptism. That is what connects you. That is what connects you to the power current that resides within the church. That power current being Christ. Or for those of you who want to think in terms of egregores, the Christ of faith egregore. Or the Christ of faith at bare minimum. But the power in the church is Jesus Christ. That's for initiation. That's what interfaces you with the mysteries. Build on the grace that you received there. Build on the grace you received there and do the work, and you will grow because you've already received the initiation. So that's the advice I would give you. If you have initiation into a given magical lodge, do not stop doing the work. And Thomas à Kempis, in The Imitation of Christ, he tells us it's really easy to stop doing the work. It's really easy that if we put off our spiritual exercises one day, it's really easy to tell ourselves, oh, I'm going to take the day off, I'm going to do it tomorrow. But we end up not doing exercises the next day or the day after too, and we have to get right back into it. Yesterday, for example, I made the mistake of not doing my regular exercises. Well, I did get back into it today, but it's a trap you have to watch out for. And no status is going to prevent you from having to watch out for that. No matter how high you ascend in your ability and in your actual skills. And this is where I care more about the actual skills. I'm an empiricist by nature. I care more about the actual skills. I care more about the actual results that you get than I care about the theory you studied or the title you have in front of your name or the alphabet soup you might have after. Avoiding that which prevents you from building the skills, or slacking off from that which prevents you from building the skills, will come around and hurt you afterwards. So stick with it. Stick with it every day. 6 years ago, I was going for a regimen where I was actually starting to build clairvoyance. I was just beginning to build it. Well, I had some exigencies in my life happen where I had to stop, and now I'm playing more than catch-up. I'm from behind where I was. Okay, Leonardo asked, do you plan on posting the prayers you've been working on, or will you keep it as a secret? I would completely understand if you did, but I sure am very eager to learn it and learn from you. Leonardo, actually what I'm doing is I will be posting them, but here's the thing, okay? Everything in my books, I don't publish it until after I've actually gotten results with it. If I haven't done it, if I haven't gotten results with it, if I don't know for a fact that it's going to work, I'm not going to publish it. So right now, the prayer in question that I just talked about, it's only been a few days. It's not long enough to know whether any results have come of it. Once the results come, I will be publishing it, and I will also give a full report of everything that happened. So I ask your patience, I ask your indulgence, but the idea is that when I do put it out there, it will be more than worth it. For you, as well as for everybody else who may happen to read it. And so, in closing, that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it. Work on what has been given you. Work on the technology that has been placed in your hands. Because even the greatest doctor, if that doctor does not keep up on continuing education, that doctor is eventually going to fall behind, and that doctor is eventually going to fail in a sensitive case. Even the greatest lawyer, if they don't keep track of changes in the law, if they don't do their continuing professional education, if they don't do it, they will fall behind, and they will become weak in their skill set. So much more so with spiritual workers. In your communication with whatever entities you communicate with, in your engagement with the current into which you've made contact, and in your engagement with your work and your skill set. Keep it sharp. Do the work. Do not go for seeking vanities and titles and just lording your quote-unquote size over other people. But instead, rather than make yourself appear big, work on becoming big. Work on becoming large. And work on being, quote-unquote, more than human and the best and truest and absolutist you that you can be, created in the image of God. For God became man, that man may become God. This is the teaching of the fathers of the church. The process is known as theosis or divinization. And what we receive in baptism is our opportunity to attain exactly that.